What's up, guys? How's it going? I haven't done any repair videos in a long time. I figured I'd put together a video with a few different patches in it. So I'm going to start off with this patch here using the fiberglass, and then I'm going to do a floor patch with using metal. This is not professional body work in any way, so check out other people's channels. And you know, if you're going to fix up a car that's worth anything, then you might as well do it properly. You might as well buy the jobber panels and weld them on. The videos that I've done before, and this video is just a temporary repair. It's just a patch job, and it's just backyard body work. So I noticed there's a lot of comments in my bodywork videos. I don't even go in the comment area because as far as I'm concerned, there's way too many negative people in there. So I stay away from there, but I really thank you guys for all the positive comments and the support on this. The negative comments, now one of them was, it's going to fall off in a year or a few months. Well, this patch has been on there since the video. The car's been through 2 winters, so you can see that the patch is on there and it's solid, and it hasn't fallen off the car like like some people said it would. Of course, maybe if you don't do it properly and you don't use the right materials, then it may fall off, but I haven't had that problem. So, and you can see here, now this isn't rust. This is just where the door rubbed the paint off, so it's just exposed the fiberglass. So that's not a big deal. You could sand that and throw some paint over that. But this is a real junky old winter beater. It's still on the car. It's still good and solid. So I just wanted to show you that before I get started on the video.
So guys, I'm going to quickly go over the materials. First off, we're going to use some acetone to clean up the area after we've ground out all the rust. Basically just to remove any oil or wax. So the second thing we're going to use is the rust mort. Now basically this is an acid. You can find a similar product, and what it does is you put this onto any rust that you could not remove from grinding or sanding. So basically this goes into the pitted rusted areas and it helps the rust from not coming back. Next material we're going to be using is the fiberglass. It's short strand fiberglass reinforced body filler, and you can get it in different brands. Now this is the Bondo brand here. You can buy that right off the shelf of most stores, and this one here is from a supplier. So they're basically the same product, and they're going to be used for the patch. We're going to be putting this onto some wax paper, and we're going to be sticking it over top of the hole. This material we're going to be using is the body filler. Now use the body filler, goes over top of any low spots on your fiberglass patch. So basically you're going to fill in all the low areas with the body filler. Now the reason why you use the body filler, because it's less expensive, and also it's easier to work with. It's easier to sand and use your body file. Both these materials here require a hardener. I have the cream hardener here. Now this hardener, you just mix in a small bead across the pile of your filler, and then you mix it up uniformly, and it will change color because the hardener is blue, so it'll change the color of the material, and then you'll know that it's mixed properly. Now it depends on the temperature. If you're doing body work in colder weather, then you might want to put a little more hardener in to quick up the reaction. If it's hot out, then you might want to use less. This fiberglass cloth here is supposed to be used with resin. You dip the cloth in the resin, and then you put it over the hole. That's the way I used to do it, but now I've switched to the way that I've been doing it in my other videos, of just using this filler to tack it and then go right over top. It seems to work okay, and it's much easier to work with because you cannot use wax paper with the resin. It doesn't work, and usually you can never get the cloth tight enough over the hole, and then it sinks in on you, and then you have to fill it with a lot of body filler. So I don't think that sounded too good, what I just said there. But anyway, we'll continue on. So once you've got your body filler on there and you've sanded it all down and you like what it looks like, then what's going to happen is there's going to be little pits and holes that you have to fill. So that's where you use this spot putty here. Primer over top of the finished area, basically just an automotive primer. Make sure you use an automotive primer, and you can get that in red or gray. It doesn't really matter. Once the primer's on there, then you're going to have to put a top coat. With this car here, I just have a color match, and basically I match the color by eye from this cap to the original color. Now you can get the color code from your manual. Once your top coat is on, it's your preference if you want to sand it and go through different coats and make it look really nice. Basically I just put on a top coat and then I apply the clear coat. So you can buy a can of clear coat as well, and then you're good to go. Some of the tools here that I'm using, you can see the small grinder over here with a cutoff wheel. That was to remove the rust and to cut out the rust. Also I have a drill with a wire wheel on it. That's good for, at first, for removing any of the rust. Also, I have a Dremel with a little sanding wheel on there, and that one's good for getting into small places. Also, I have a orbiting sander, and that's good for going over top of the flat areas to smooth down the fiberglass filler, or the Bondo.
I've cleaned off the area, and it's nice and dry, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the rust mort. I'm going to take this little paintbrush here, and I'm just going to apply some of this rust mort. Make sure you wear safety glasses and gloves because it is acid. So I'm ready to go here with this patch. I have my wax paper ready. I have my mixing board down here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some material, and then I'm going to put it onto the wax paper, and then I'm going to apply it over top of the hole. So let's get going here. So you're going to take out what you need. You don't want to mix up too much, because if it hardens up on you, then you wasted a lot of material. So you want to sort of gauge how much you're going to need. Basically, you can put it onto your mixing board, and you can see how much you have there. Is that going to be enough? That should be more than enough to fill that patch there. You're going to take your pile of filler, and you're going to apply a bead of hardener over top of the filler. It depends on the temperature. If you put more hardener, it's going to harden up faster. A generous amount. The more hardener you put in there, the less time you have to work with the material. So we're just going to mix the material up.
Get it uniform. So once you start mixing in that hardener, you don't have much time to work with this material.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this now, and I'm going to apply it onto the wax paper. I'm going to spread it out. Remember, you don't have much time to work with this. Get this up here. So we're just going to smooth this in place. I'm going to tuck it all up underneath. Basically, what you want to do is you want to form the panel with the wax paper. I'm going to try to form it to the way this panel was. I'm going to put this right back in to the slot it was in, like that. You only get a limited amount of time to work with it.
Just gonna smooth that out a little bit. So it looks sort of like the panel. It's not perfect, but...
So you can see that it basically takes the shape now. Now you can take an applicator like this here, and you can go over it to smooth it out. Now, I'm not an expert with this, but some people can get this on one shot, but so now what you want to do is you want to check to see if the wax paper is ready to come off, and you can just pull on it a little bit. It should not be sticking to the material. Now, if you leave it too long, sometimes the wax paper can get embedded into the fiberglass. So you want to get it off once it's ready to go. You can see how it's starting to peel off. You don't want to pull it off too soon, because then you'll pull off the material.
Every time you do this, you never really know what it's going to turn out, how it's going to turn out, but... there we go.
It's not bad. It doesn't look so great. You could, if you wanted to, just quickly sand over it and paint it, but that wouldn't look very good. So you're going to have to take a body file like this one. This one's a rounded. You can also get them flat, and then you're going to take off the high spots. Now you have to use the body file while the material's still soft. If you let it harden up too much, then you won't be able to use the file. You'll have to grind it.
So go to the other side of the car, and you're going to have to copy the way the body conformed on the other side. Use it like a cheese grater, and we can just take off any of the high spots, and it comes off very easily. But you don't want to start on this too early, because then the material won't be hard enough, and it'll just start peeling off of the car. So.
Now you may not get this all in one shot, so you're going to have to then take some filler, and then you can go over top of areas you missed, and then you can put wax paper over top and then smooth it again.
Okay, so you can see that the patch is taking shape. It's pretty hard, and that's just fiberglass right over top of the hole. It's not bad. I could just finish this with a grinder and then put a small amount of body filler on top. Now, if you're going to use a grinder to grind this stuff out, always wear a mask. It's a really messy job. That's the thing. That's why you don't want to put too much on. You want to try to get it all in one shot and then have it a little low so you can then apply body filler, because it's much safer to sand body filler than to sand this fiberglass materials.
Okay, so I'm going to sand it down a little bit, and then I'll put another coat of body filler on top.
But you can use body filler if you want to fill in these low spots. You can see right here, here's a low spot. There's a low spot in here, also in here. So you can see it's a few different areas. I wasn't able to get this all in one pop.
So I'm just going to mix up a small amount.
So mix that up, and I'm going to just fill in the areas. Fill in the low spots here. Well, I'm using the fiberglass because I don't want to switch materials right now, so not an expert, so. Go over the whole thing again, hoping to get this on one shot here. Now I'll smooth this in. Okay, so I'm going to take the body file, and I'm just going to go over this lightly now.
So I'm rushing at this, so that's why it's not the greatest, but I don't really care. I'm satisfied basically what it looks like. It basically is the form of the vehicle. Now what I need to do is fill in any imperfections, because you really don't want those little holes and dips. So that's where the spot putty comes into use. So you can feel all that just by running your hand over. So what I'm going to do is take the spot putty and I'm going to apply some over these holes really quickly. So just take your applicator, you can use a smaller one than this, just put some on the end and then just fill in the holes.
Basically fill in these areas here. So I'm just going to go over all these areas here.
I'm just going to be painting within the tape here, scuffed up the paint here so that the primer will adhere to it. You should remove all the paint, of course, right down to the bare metal, but this is just a quick patch job. Make sure there's no dust on there. I'm just going to apply the top coat now. Just a very light coat at first. But if you do take your time, you can get a lot better than this. You could fill in all those little spots, but this is good enough. This car is an old winter beater, so that doesn't look too bad. So I'm going to throw another coat on now. So I have 2 coats of paint on there. Unfortunately, I didn't have any clear coat, so I'm going to have to do that later. But it doesn't look too bad. You can see that there's where the hole was and all the rust. So it's not bad. It definitely looks better than it did with the rust hole. Okay guys, I just want to show you a quick patch on the floor. Now, I've pulled the carpet back. You're going to have to remove your trim pieces and all of the parts that are holding your carpet down. I've already done that in this car and I've pulled it back. Now you could try to patch it from underneath of the car, but I would recommend doing it from the inside. If you do it from the underneath, it's going to be a lot harder because you're going to have to raise the car up pretty high to be able to work under there. I don't recommend using fiberglass on the floor of a car because it just doesn't really hold up to all the abuse. Of course, people getting in and out of the car, so it's better to use a metal patch on here. But for a small hole like this one here, you might be able to get away with the fiberglass. I'm not going to bother putting steel over top of this hole here. I'll just put a little fiberglass patch. But this one, I'm going to cut out a steel patch. Before you do anything to the floor, you have to check to see where the fuel lines and brake lines are. Now in this car, the fuel lines and brake lines run basically right over here. So they're far away from this area here that I'm working on. But if you have to work on a car if your fuel lines are underneath, close to the rocker or something, then you can't be drilling or putting any screws in around those fuel lines. So you have to be very careful and make sure where they are. If they are there, then you're going to have to pull them down or whatever, move them out of the way. So first off, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut out the rusted metal, the worst of it. So these jagged pieces here, I'm going to cut it off, just cut it off straight. I'm going to cut all this out. I'm just going to use the grinder with a cutoff wheel. So the next thing I'm going to do is apply the rust mort over the rust. I'll just apply it over basically over the whole area.
So I'm going to speed up the process a little bit because I want to get this done fast for the video. So I'm just going to take the heat gun and I'm going to go over this, dry it up.
I've mixed up a patch here. You can see on the wax paper. I'm going to fill these holes here with the fiberglass. I might as well because it's a small hole. Put this on here. That's what it looks like. You can just press it in basically around the edges. So I installed the plug, put that back in there, and this is okay. I don't know how long it's going to last. That's why you'd be better off using metal over that. But at least this part here, these little holes are filled now. Move on to the large hole here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply some rust primer to this area here. Next thing I'm going to put on is some black asphalt undercoating, and I'm going to spray that over the whole area here. This up quick. Cut out a piece of sheet metal just with your tin snips or your metal shears, whatever you want to call them, and we're going to cut out a piece at least an inch larger than the opening.
It's better to make your patch larger than smaller, that's for sure. So you can get the sheet metal anywhere, automotive supply. Clean up this piece of metal here. The metal you're going to be using will probably be new steel. Unfortunately, I only have the scrap to work with right now.
I'm going to coat the metal with some rust primer. What I recommend is don't use rusted metal like I'm using here. I'm only using that because I don't have any fresh metal to work with. So you'll be using fresh metal, so you can sand it down a little bit and rust prime it. I have some asphalt undercoat. I'm going to coat this. This is going to make a mess. So I'm going to form the piece of metal now, basically to fit in here. We want it to come over top of here, and we want it to come down through here. So I'm just going to basically form this.
Bunch this off. It's a little too big, I didn't measure it.
So now I'm going to take a hammer, and I'm just going to gently form it in there. So the panel is sort of formed to the area, and what I'm going to do is, it's basically I can tack it in at the top with some screws, and then I can just push this part down, so I'm not worried about that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some sealer. Now you can use the proper automotive sealer. I'm trying some asphalt here, so I'm going to see how that works. This is for repairing roofs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the sealer close to the edge here and close to this edge. So I'm going to put 2 beads. This bead here I'm going to put really close to the edge here because I want it to ooze out.
Nice thick bead.
What's going to happen is it's going to ooze out, and then what I can do is I can then take a scraper and just clean it up. So these are the low spots here. So across here as well. I'm going to take my patch now, and I don't want to adjust it too much. I want to basically drop it on where I had it. So basically right there. You can see it oozing out. That's good. Okay, so now I'm going to need the drill and my screws. And I'm going to tack it up at the top. Now the problem is I only have this type of screws, so they're hard to work with. I don't have the proper self-tappers. So you don't want to strip the screws, you want to, or strip the hole, you want to drive it in and just till it grabs. Okay, so there's the patch, and what I'll do is I'll just smooth this asphalt here over the whole area.
Another coat of asphalt undercoat.
There we go. Now on the bottom, you can just smooth it out as well. I'm going to take the heat gun to this to dry it up before I put the carpet back down. I'm going to do a small repair on the door here. So the hole in the door is a fairly easy repair with the fiberglass. So I'm just going to mix up some and apply it to the wax paper and then put it over the hole and tuck it in. And spread that out, see how much that's going to do. It has to go on the inside too, so that should probably be enough. Apply it to the wax paper. Should be ready to put this on now. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to tuck it in inside the door here. It's tucked in the door. Now there's a little excess. You can take that off of there if you want. I'm going to fold it again. Some of it might get on the seal, but it should just come right off of that. Now we're going to make our form here. Don't have much time to work with.
See that it's indented here.
Try to stretch the paper a bit. See that helped a little bit. So you can see on the inside now how it's conforming as well. Now, if there isn't enough, I might be able to get the material in there like that, and then put the wax paper back up and see how that works. If you want to try to get it in one shot, then you have to try whatever you can. That's not bad. You can see how there's way too much material there, but that can be easily taken off with the files. We'll take the wax paper off and take a look. Oh, doesn't look too bad.
If you got any fiberglass on the rubber, sealed, and get it off now before it hardens up anymore.
What I'm going to do now is take the body file, and then I'm just going to take this edge off and make this a little more round. You can see when you close the door. Patch is good. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some body filler, because you can see all these indentations here, low spots. So I'm going to go over the whole area here with some body filler to fill in any holes. Break open these air bubbles here. I'm going to mix some material up down here. That should probably do it. Just going to go over the whole area here. See those air bubbles? Push the filler in there. I'm going to take the body file now, and I'm just going to go over it, take off all the high spots. Why you use these body files is because you can take off a lot more material faster than with a sander. So you can take all the high spots off right away, and it makes it a lot less work for when you use your sander. So all I have to do with this patch now is go over it with the sander, fill in any little holes with the spot putty, prime it and paint it, and I'm ready to go. So the patch looks pretty good. It's fairly smooth. There's a few little indentations, but I'm not going to worry about them. I'm just going to throw the primer on. So taped it off, basically. Okay, so I'll throw the top coat on now.
Okay guys, well I never do metal patches on any of the vehicles or any of the videos I've done. I'm going to do a quick video with a metal patch. Now I have a hole in the door. This is a scrap door off an old car. It was going to go to the scrap yard, but might as well do a little patch in it before it goes. And so I cut out a patch. Metal you'd be using would be nice and fresh, not all rusted like this. And of course, you wouldn't want to put on just a patch like this. You'd want to replace this whole skin on the door here. Just a demo on just basically tacking it and welding it in. Don't call this a MIG welder right now because I'm using the flux core wire. So when you're using the flux core wire, it's not technically a MIG welder. So I don't have the gas hooked up, but I could hook up the gas. Now you're way better off to use a MIG, but unfortunately, when you work outdoors like I do in the wind, MIG welding isn't a good option because the argon gas or the CO2 will just blow away. Okay, so I have the door flat down on a table. Usually you'd be just doing this right on the side of the car unless you take the door off. But you're going to have to hold the patch before you weld it. So basically you can take a wooden stick or something and you can hold it against your shoulder and you can press against the patch, and that's going to hold the patch. You're going to take your wire and you're going to touch it onto this piece, the patch, and you're going to melt through this piece and then leave a little weld into the original metal on the door, which is very thin. So you want to weld through this piece. This hasn't been ground down very well. It's just really rough. You'd be using a grinding disc for this so you get a nice smooth surface, and you wouldn't have this hole here. You'd have it all cut out and ready to go. Prepare your patch before you even put it on. You're going to have it all primed with a welding primer. You're going to have to prime this area here underneath of the patch where it overlaps, because if you don't, then the rust will then form right here and it'll start rusting right in, and it's going to pop this patch out and it's going to look really bad. So I don't have any of the proper materials here to do this. I don't have the primer, I don't have the sealers and all that, so this is just a real quick weld on here. I have my ground connected over here to the door. You can connect that too somewhere on the car with a good ground. Completely disconnect the battery before you hook up the welder. And you use the flux core, it's not as good as the MIG, and it's gonna leave a mess of your work. So unfortunately, if you're not using the MIG, then it's really not that great for welding on patches. Your welder, you have a bunch of different controls. This is your on and off. This is your min max for heat settings, and this is your feed settings. So as fast as the wire's gonna come out of the end of the torch here. Basically with sheet metal, you're gonna have this on a low feed, and I'm gonna have this on minimum because this metal's really thin.
So all the repairs in this video are just a backyard repair. They're just a temporary repair. You never know really how long they're going to last. You can see here that this patch has been on here for a few years since I posted that video. So basically the videos that I'm making here are just amateur backyard repairs. So this isn't professional bodywork in any way. I really don't have that many hours of bodywork experience to begin with. So basically this is just how I patched up the cars, kept them going. So you can use this information however you want. Basically it's just entertainment, and I'm not recommending to do this in any way. You can see that it sort of works for me. It might not work for you, so you have to see what option is best for you. You can check out other people's videos. There's tons of videos. So this is just a couple auto body backyard repairs, and thank you for watching.